Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Les, would you lead us, please?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we'll go right into new business, and our first new business item is actually a carryover from the last meeting. We discussed overall budget goals for the 24 budget last month, and there was no motion made, no one had a specific. And Sue, I'm thinking you might have a number or something, or?
Yeah, I think what we had said, we had partially discussed was...
Before we get into discussion, I'd actually like you to make a motion, and then we'll second it, and then have the discussion.
Okay, so I make a motion, hold on one second, I gotta see where was it. We're talking about the goal to reduce the budget.
I don't know.
By a certain percentage.
I'm not
Is
sure.
that what you're
I'm
talking?
not sure whether you want to make a motion to reduce from the select board budget or to achieve an increase over last year's budget. This is what we talked about. I'm not comfortable picking a specific number, so I was basically saying let's not do it, and you said no, we really should. So that's why I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, you are too. No, actually, what I was thinking, I went through the entire budget.
Okay.
Actually, line by line, and what I think, it's not to reduce it from where the select board is at, because I think the select board actually did a good job this year. I really do, insofar as not only you finding other ways to reduce the budget, knowing that we have increases that are coming that are very high. So I found a good balance. I thought that you did pretty well on that. So I don't, at this point, think that there should be a goal set up if we can find some things to reduce, which I think I've looked at a few things. If we can find some things to reduce, I think we should go that route as opposed to just saying 3% of what they had discussed or 3% prior to that. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, you're not looking to make a motion. Does
No.
anyone else want to make a motion? Okay.
No.
We'll move on to the next item.
Okay, the only item that I have is, we don't have a meeting next week. And I'm concerned that we're gonna get to crunch, and I know we're gonna wanna review. Should we still have a meeting next week?
So can we handle that when we get later on to
Sure,
members'
to see how
comments?
far we
Because
are.
that doesn't really
Yeah.
on the agenda, and
Yeah.
there are some more information we can share
Okay.
with you. So the next item on our new business is to talk about potential items to take out of the budget and put them into separate warrant articles. That's something.
Or suggest.
Or suggest.
That they
So,
be
so at this point, I'm not expecting, I think this is a discussion, because what was made is that there are some things they made last week.
I'm ready to make motions.
Go ahead then.
Okay, so I'll just open the section I'm gonna be in. So, starting in 4140, election registration and vital statistics, I'll move the select board number of 208,599.57 cents. I have to move it to be able to amend the line.
I understand what you're saying. This is not what I was expecting, because I don't really want to go into separate department budgets for a specific line without talking about it. I don't want to go into department budgets that aren't.
I don't want to talk about something without making a motion. I don't think that's right either. Because I don't want to talk about it and then make the motion right afterwards.
I understand, but I thought what you were gonna come in with was basically a list of these, I don't know how many,
I have two items.
2 items, and that we were gonna share them with our town administrator, who was gonna share them, and Les was gonna share them with the select board, to give people a heads up, so that if when we got into those departments and we zeroed them out, that they wouldn't be surprised, and if they needed us to act sooner, we would do that, so.
I had the interpretation that we had to act now,
Can I-
so that the select board could.
Can I actually
Yeah,
just ask Christina,
Mhm.
what do you need us to do?
Well, I mean, as a group, you would have to agree that those items potentially could come out of the budget.
Right,
And
but
so you do have to have some discussion.
so if they're in a section that's on tonight's agenda, we will deal with them. If they're in a section that's not in tonight's agenda, do you want Charlie to make a motion to zero those out now, or do you want to wait for, say, the police or the library or something comes up later, which would still, I think, give the select board enough time, or do you want?
No, because
No.
you're doing budgets into January. It
Yeah.
doesn't give them enough time. If it's something that you're not seeing till then.
Okay, Walter, yes.
I make a motion that we hear Charles' suggestions, because the sooner we get to study what he's saying, the sooner we can make a good decision
What
on it.
what I just heard from Christina and Walter is yes. Charlie, go ahead and make the motion.
So I'll state it once again, I'll make a motion to move 4140, election registration and vital statistics, at an amount of $208,599.57. I need a second.
Oh,
I'll-
second.
Okay, so
Yeah.
a motion from Charlie to amend.
No, this is a motion just to move the section. We have
To discuss.
to discuss, we have to move the section.
Got it.
Yeah.
And it's
And
been
I'll second
seconded,
it.
so now that's open for discussion. So I need to
And
open, go ahead.
you want me to wait? I'll make a motion to amend line 4140, 810, TC new equipment to an amount of $500.
So in essence, you're saying you want the voting machine to be on ballot.
I think I need a second first.
Oh, I second.
So-
Yeah.
so-
There you go.
So we got, Sue seconded that one. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So, could you now, so I went, just so everyone knows, I went in the computer and I changed the directory to the meeting on October 24th, and then I clicked on the PDF file for the whole budget, which is now open on my computer, and I'm gonna, oh, you
It's
got
up
it in
there,
front,
too.
okay.
Yeah.
So the current amount is $6,500 that was recommended by the select board. My motion is to move it to 500, which was what was budgeted on that line last year. And I feel like that the voting machine is certainly a new equipment item that should be on the warrant and should not be part of our budget.
Again,
So it's not about at all the validity of or the need for a voting machine. It's about the placement of the voting machine here versus being on the warrant.
I got you. Which section is it again, please?
It's 4140. So this would be 4140,
810.
810, and it happens to be on page
Page
4
4.
of your document.
Yeah, I had it.
Why would you want it on a warrant?
So
Because it seems.
I feel
that
strongly that new equipment purchases of this nature should not be kind of on a way almost like hidden in our budget, and that they should be voted on separate.
So if I went back and looked 2 years from now, I would only look at that department. I wouldn't go to a warrant. See, I think financially. And that's where I would look. I would look in that general ledger under that department. I wouldn't go to a warrant. Just my opinion.
Okay, so we have, I was gonna recap and then ask you to talk, so that's perfect. Let me just, so we've opened up the section of 4140. We have a motion on the table that's been seconded to modify line 810, which is basically the new voting machine, to take the money out of the budget with the expectation that the select board would create a separate warrant article to handle buying that piece of equipment. I'd like our select board rep to share her thoughts.
So this piece of equipment isn't a want as much as it is a need. The current piece of equipment that we have they cannot get parts for anymore. So if anything happens to that machine, we will not have a voting machine. So this was not something that if we put it on the warrant and people vote it down and our machine dies, we're gonna be having to find that money somewhere because we're gonna have to have a machine. And to me, it also seems to make sense that you would put it in the line where the new equipment is going to be, not in a warrant article.
So this is not, and maybe this is what you're thinking, this is not the machine that Raymond talked about last year.
No.
But it is, I thought.
No.
No,
It is
last year
not
she
safe.
talked about poll pads.
She talked
It's
about
not-
tablets that
Right,
would
no,
use
it's not
to
that.
check
Right.
people in on. This is the
Right.
thing that you put your ballot into that scans and counts it.
Oh, okay.
So she's
That's a whole
letting the
different thing.
poll pads go to the future, she's not asking for
I-
this year.
Oh,
And
okay.
to respond to the other part, I feel that even if it's a need, it should still be on the warrant.
Walter, yes.
Voting has become such a contentious issue in this country, in the world, that I think we need some safety. I firmly believe whatever Raymond's telling me is the god-awful truth. I firmly suggest that I'd follow her leadership anywhere. And if she needs this, there's nothing more we need than an election we can trust and be sure of. And I'm gonna stick with what Raymond's called for.
Well, we're taking her word that we need it,
And I
Where it
accept her
goes-
word as gospel.
So do
but
we?
where
do
it
we-
goes in admin
Yeah.
is up to admin. It's not up to me. It's up to admin, it's not up to Raymond where it goes.
Yeah, the person in charge of elections is actually Ned, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I ask anything, does anybody know about the machine? I mean, the big
I-
question about the machine.
Can I just get us back on balance?
Yeah.
I am not disputing the need for this machine one bit. I just think it's not the proper pace to be in our budget. That's the only issue I have with it. It is not about the need of this machine at all.
so.
But you kind of need to know about the machine and what it does in order to put it on the warrant, what are they asking for? If you're gonna put it on a warrant, don't you have to specify, like, do you want it this, this type of way or that type of way? You have to give a reasoning for it, so you should know about the machine, what it does. Does this hook up to the internet? I mean, is this something that we're talking about that could be good or bad? I'm just saying, do we know about it?
Our current machine is outdated and cannot be fixed.
And is that just a countering machine? Is that just
Just
counts?
a counter.
All it does is
Count.
count.
So this new machine
Yeah.
is what communities are going with.
Right.
And so we
Yeah.
don't really have, I don't think there's a lot of selection out there on what you do. This is what they're using.
The
now.
state, my understanding from reading the newspaper is the state has done the research and told the towns, this is the new model that the state is going to standardize on. When you update your machine, this is the one you should buy. So that's what's being proposed.
Have we talked about how much it costs?
$6,000.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
It's,
Shannon's not here. I
It's
can't read that. I'm sorry.
6,000.
Yeah.
6,000,
That's the
okay.
difference between the 500 and the 6,500.
So I've got something to say, but I'll let Christina go first.
But, and I just would add, no, I totally lost my train of thought, sorry.
All right,
Go ahead.
I'll let Walter go, we'll come back to you. Go ahead, Walter.
For fear this might go the wrong way, I would like to wait and have Raymond come here and defend it.
I don't think that's
I would
necessary.
like to make a motion to table this until Raymond's here to defend it.
I
You have to
actually,
allow a second on that. I think he can table my motion, can't he?
all right, so the question is, does anyone want to second Walter's motion to table this amendment? I'd rather vote on it and get it done with, so I'm not gonna second your motion, Walter, I'm sorry.
I remember part of it now.
All right, go back to Christina.
I just was, if you remember when Raymond came last year, they were looking to replace it last year.
Yeah.
Because but they couldn't replace it because they had to wait for the Secretary of State's office to approve the version that they could use,
Right.
and now they have. So the parts themselves they were gathering last year from all over the state in order to be able to repair them, and they are not going to be able to do that going forward, period.
Yeah, my understanding is that the state went and, so these machines at one point were used in Massachusetts and are not anymore. The state has gone and bought those.
Yes.
And they basically have them sitting in a warehouse so they can scavenge them for parts because nobody makes the parts anymore.
Right.
So I want to go back actually to Charlie's point, because Charlie is actually being pretty consistent here. He has brought up in the past that if it's a big ticket item, if it's a capital expenditure, if it's a one-off, let's not bury it in the budget. Let's make sure that it's visible to the voters. It's better off as a standalone warrant article. So I've heard
That is my exact point.
I've heard this from Charlie in the past. He's being consistent here, but I usually strongly agree with Charlie, and I'm having a problem with this one because I know it is capital and I know it is one-off, but I don't know that it's optional. I think it basically is something that we really need. We don't want to get into a position where we're running an election and the machine dies and now we go to hand counts, and I mean, data shows that hand counting, even though some people don't think of it, is actually less efficient than the optical scanner, and then you got a whole... I think at this point, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just gonna, my opinion at this point is I think I'm gonna vote against. And then when this section comes up again, we'll give Rayma a heads up that it might come up for discussion, and if Ned wants to come and join this discussion, we'll make sure he knows about it too.
That's
Well,
fair.
and I will do
Christina.
that because you're using the word capital. Capital improvements doesn't do anything under 10,000.
Okay.
So so 10,000 or above is what they put in the capital improvements plan.
And that goes with depreciation.
But you can certainly have warrant articles that are under.
You could.
You can have a warrant article
You
for
can.
$100.
You are correct,
right.
but I was just, because Paul was referring to capital, it would be.
Right, it is a piece of capital equipment, but it isn't capitalized because, or it's not in the multi-year capital plan because it's not overcapped. Okay.
I say
Any-
call it a vote.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, anyone else wanna make a comment before we? I don't think we need to quite jump through hoops and make a motion to close debate. I think I can just call for a vote here. All right. So, to recap, we have a motion on the floor to amend section 4140,
810.
line 810, which is new equipment for the town clerk, which we know is for a voting machine, and the motion is to amend the dollar amount from $6,000
From
to
6,500
$6,500.
to 500.
I keep looking at billing expense, you're right, I'm on the wrong line. From $6,500 to $500. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to reduce the line from 6,000 to 500, with the hope and expectations that the select board would find another way to get that money for that equipment. If you vote no, you're voting to not make a change and to leave that money in the budget. Clear? Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All
This
those-
is a no, right?
No, this
Aye
is
means to
aye
change it
to-
from 6,500 to 500.
Okay,
All those opposed? The motion fails 3-4.
I'll make a motion to table 4140 election registration and vital statistics.
To table.
So for later
For
discussion.
later,
So we don't have to vote on essentially the bottom line number.
right.
Okay, yes, thank you. Second. So Charlie is helping me by doing record keeping, so we're going to basically now not talk about the rest of the town clerk section. We're gonna do that during the normal stuff. So Charlie's made a motion to table the rest of the discussion on the rest of that section. I have seconded it. All in favor? Aye. That passes 7-0. Thank you, Charlie. I won't miss that one. You said you had two.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Yep.
Let me get to the I'm going to police next.
Okay,
I
thank
did
you.
that. From last-
Oh, I know which one you're going.
Yeah.
What, if you can help me with the page
It's,
once you get there.
page, crap, sorry, 14.
14, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't do it. All right,
Christina, can someone run those those
4210.
for me
Yeah, I got it.
before I leave tonight? Cause it doesn't look like Shannon's coming in.
I can actually, I can print them right now.
Okay, thank you.
No, Shannon won't be at your meetings, she'll.
Okay,
I was gonna
I thought you said if
She came in and set up last night, so but I'll make sure we print it before you leave.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to move 4210 Public Safety Police and a select board recommended amount of 1 million.
So first, we wanna open 4210 and then go to the line and you do it.
Exactly, I'm moving the section.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I will second.
Oh, can I say the dollar amount of the
Yes.
section? Of $1,336,091.77.
I will second that. All in favor of?
Oh, you don't have to, we don't have to.
Okay, that's right, we don't vote on that. So we've opened up discussion on section 4210, which is police. And now, Charlie, you wanna make a?
Yep, I'll
Motion.
make a motion to amend 4210-891 PD grant related expenses to an amount of $0.
And I will second that for the purpose of discussion. So we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded, and now we will have discussion. As the person who made the motion, why don't you talk first?
Yep, my rationale is the exact same for this. It's not about a need or want or anything about the particular item. I believe it's the type of expense that is a warrant article and not something that should be in our budget.
Okay. Again, since I think it's not in our power, but it would certainly be our expectation that if this motion passes and we zero this out, we're pretty much expecting the select board to create a separate warrant article. So I'd like any comment from our select board representative?
My feeling from the select board standpoint, maybe just mine, is that they would prefer the less warrant articles, the better, because people get very upset when you have a long list of warrant articles after you've done, you're just asking for more and more and more. So I would be opposed to doing that, but I understand the reasoning and however this group votes.
Anyone else? So,
Yeah, I actually just don't even understand that. That was one of the things.
Okay, yeah, I'll explain the line a bit.
Yeah,
So, as stated in the comment, this would be for kind of one of those
top of
like
page 14, Walter.
one of those trailers that will track your speed
yep,
as you drive by it and tell you what your speed is, and some of them give you some feedback. It would be for 2 radars that are in cruisers,
yep.
and also another handheld LiDAR radar and speed enforcement patrol. So it would be a number of items all related to trying to keep people driving the speed limit.
And I got that. My paper, and I don't know if this is because it was a different one, basically had said that the select board was giving 35,346.50.
Correct.
That's what I have, okay.
Yep, and I amend that to 0,
Okay, but now.
expecting that the warrant article would be for that amount.
Gotcha. Now there's one more line, one more part to the line.
Yep.
Bristol pays
It's not any more than they're already there.
836.63.
Yep.
And the state reimburses the town for 26,509.87.
Yep.
Correct.
So if they're reimbursing that amount to the town, where does the 35,000, I guess I'm confused.
So this is just how this works.
So if you add the 8,000 and the 26,000 together, you get the 35.
Okay,
State law says that if we're spending $35,000 on radar equipment, we have to budget the 35. We don't have to raise $35,000 in taxes. If we have a
Okay.
grant for 26, we only have to raise $8,000 in taxes.
and that's what.
But we have to authorize spending 35 because that's the total amount of money
Okay,
that's
that's what I
gonna be
wanted to have it
spent.
clear, because I wanted to, I knew that was what it was, but I couldn't figure it out. I circled it because I wanted to ask that question as well.
I just want to, so what you would see on this is you would see we have to gross budget the
Yes.
total amount here, and then in the revenue side, when you look at the revenues, you will see the 26,000, which would offset this.
That's, okay,
So,
good.
yeah.
And
Sure.
And that is kind of the point that I want to make, is that when we go to town meeting and we present the budget, it doesn't tell the voters, it doesn't tell the residents how much taxes are gonna be raised. It tells them how much we're going to spend. And so even though we're getting $35,000 worth of equipment for $8,000 worth of local money, they don't really see that if it's in the budget. But if it's in a separate warrant article, it's explained better. And that's why
Yeah.
I kind of like the idea of splitting this one off. It takes a chunk of money out of the budget, helps us a little there, and it makes it more obvious to the voters that we're asking them to authorize spending $35,000, but only $8,000 are gonna come out of their pocket. You get more room to make that explanation and make it clear to people.
And people can ask questions.
And people can ask questions.
Yeah.
So I'm right now strongly leaning towards supporting this. I don't have a feel, I'm not on, I don't need to, I'm not on the select board. I don't have a feel for how many other things, and I do understand that if we've got 12 or 13 warrant articles, we'll get some fatigue at some point in the meeting. But that's where I am right now. Any other comments? I'm gonna stop rambling.
Well, I have a question, Leslie. I don't understand the parameters for a warrant article. Because I know when I first started on the board, on the committee, we had a bazillion. And then it got whittled down, and that was very confusing to me. And I would have thought somebody would have spoken up in the audience as to why do we have so many warrant articles? And I think the next year is when it got cut by 25,000, 250,000. So I don't understand the parameters. If I looked in the dictionary, would that relate to this, to the government here?
I don't understand.
A warrant
the question.
article. So what is it what's supposed to be in the warrant article? Because we're putting
Well,
capital and
the whole document is called a warrant. It's made up of warrant articles. So typically the first 9 or so are things that get voted on Tuesday, electing people and zoning or planning regulations, right? And then the rest are handled at the meeting, which is the budget, and
How many people working?
what, we do 25,000 every year into a contingency fund, and there's gonna be something on power, but I don't know what else is going on with, there's gonna be something on Walter Safety, Senior Center, or whatever, is going on, but, so please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm gonna give this a stab. A warrant article is just an article to be considered by the voters during the meeting, and the warrant is kind of the agenda or the list of things they're gonna consider. So the select board has total control of that, they can put anything they want, and if you don't get what you want from the select board, you have the option as a voter to petition by warrant, go out and collect some signatures, and you can put an item, a warrant on, you can put an article on the warrant also.
Right.
So I think what has happened, it used to be a lot of warrant articles.
Yeah.
And that was frustrating people, because one, it made the meeting go so long.
Right.
You end up arguing over $1,500 for an hour,
Yeah.
and you just passed a huge budget, so we have worked to cut that back.
Yeah.
I also think a part of it is that the select board is looking at, okay, what do we believe is necessary? And if we believe it's necessary, then we put it in, it can come out, the budget committee can take it out and make it a warrant article, but we felt that that was a necessary item. And we want to limit how many things, I don't know how to word this, but it's almost like the easy way out if the select board says, let's make that a warrant article, because we don't want to make that decision. So we make the decision where we believe it should be, and then the budget committee can change that.
Why wouldn't, when each department, let's just stick with Ramo, when the budget is presented, why wouldn't that department get up and say, included in this is XYZ instead of a warrant? Why wouldn't, because you're right, I believe that, it looks like it's hidden if it's in the department.
It certainly can be explained, the select board will be explaining the budget, budget committee will be explaining the budget. If there's questions on certain lines,
Right.
they can certainly stand up and the department head can stand up and speak to it. If there's any question as to why it's there, but.
The reason I bring it, I want the discussion to be had now, is because I actually, if this warrant comes up, I'm gonna vote for the warrant.
Yeah,
It's just the placement of it. So this is the right time for me to have this discussion about removing this item. Because this is an item I do support. Just like the voting machine. I support that item too. I will vote yes on both those warrant articles. I just feel like they should be warrant articles. So that discussion is had.
so, any other questions or comments on Charlie's motion to zero out that line in the budget with the hope and I put it that way because we don't, as a committee, we don't control what goes into the warrant and we don't write warrant articles. So we certainly expect that to happen, but I want to make it clear that that's not something we as our group doesn't get to decide that. So all we're doing is voting to zero out that line in the budget. Should I call a vote or do we have any other comments or questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
Could we change it to $1 instead of 0? And then if there's something that the select board decides is imperative that they push through, at least they'll have an open account to do that with. If we reduce it to 0, then they can't do anything.
I understand what you're saying, Walter, and you certainly can make that motion. Before I ask for a second, I just want to make it clear. To me,
I think we have to vote on my motion
Yeah.
first.
I think we have to vote on Charlie's motion first, or he has to agree to a friendly amendment. But the issue is that if we whether we go to 0 or 1, if we go to 1 and the select board doesn't write a warrant article, I wouldn't expect them to go through the budget and find surplus money and fund this. And if they write a warrant article and the voters vote it down, even if you put the $1 in there, I don't think the select board would go and do it because the voters have specifically voted against it. And that, if I was on the select board, I would feel uncomfortable doing something that the voters had already specific. If the voters don't vote, you have freedom to do what you want. If the voters vote and say no, and you go back and do it, you're kind of giving the finger to the voters, and I don't think our select board's willing to do that. So I don't think the $1 is needed or is important, is what I'm trying to say. Did I kind of get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to call for a vote. So we're voting on the motion, which is to amend line 893 of section 4210, which is the police department, 891 of 4210, which is in the police department for grant-related expenses, from the current proposed amount of $35,346.50 to 0. So if you're voting yes, you're voting to zero that out, and basically asking the select board to handle it in a different way. If you vote no, you're voting to keep that number in the budget and the purchasing that equipment in the budget. Clear? Okay. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand and against. So we have 6 for and 1 against. That passes.
Can I still just table the section?
Yes, I was going to say,
I
let's
will-
do that again.
Table section 4210, public safety police, for discussion at a later meeting.
And I will second that. So we're just closing discussion, so we don't have to do the whole police department since we opened that to do this one line. We're going to close it for now and we'll bring it back up at the meeting when the chief is here, when we're planning to handle it. All in favor? Okay. All right.
That's it.
I think we are done with that. So, the next item on our agenda is capital improvements. If Buzz and I are actually on the capital improvements committee, so if we were on a deadline, one of us would try to handle it, but neither one of us prepared for this. I know I didn't, right, Buzz? So if Dawn is able to handle it, if Dawn is not, we'll just put it on a future agenda and handle it then. So for the time being, let's move on. So now we're going to go into discussion on specific budget sections. I know we have them on the agenda in a certain order, but I'd actually like to take them so that the department heads who are here, we handle theirs first so they can get out of here.
I see what department head wants to go first.
So, do you guys wanna flip a coin? You want me to just pick one?
I'm not bothered. You're welcome to
Okay.
talk.
So you can
Okay.
you can start with property. You can start with property then.
Have a seat at the,
You're up.
so this is planning property reappraisal, is that what we should do first?
It's probably, if you're gonna go in order, so it would be 4152.
I'll make a motion to move 4152 reevaluation of property at a select board recommended amount of $155,649.16.
Second. So, we've opened that up. Anything that you'd like to tell us about before we start asking questions?
Well, I'm trying. This is my first time in front of the budget committee. so-
Welcome. You can see how
So you
now-
can say nothing, we can just ask questions.
Yeah. So, well, first, I'm Joanne Bailey, so I'm the land use
Mhm.
and assessing manager. So I guess I'll let you guys ask questions. I'm prepared, hopefully, to answer them.
I have a question about line 4152, 121. This is property administrative clerk temporary. You had, your department budget, you had recommended 5,223.
Yes.
The select board reduced that amount to 1,500. Can you tell us your thoughts on that?
And actually, and I'm prepared to reduce it down to 0.
Okay.
Um,
I'll make a motion to 4152, 121 to an amount of $0.
Second. So, are you in the whole budget?
I would say let her finish, I just didn't wanna.
I
just wanna stop
Do you know
us
where we
getting
are? I
emotional.
just wanna make sure everyone's on the right
Yeah.
page and you know where we are.
I take care of it. Okay, you know that.
Thank you.
Do you wanna state your rationale why you?
There's a reason for my stay.
Yeah.
Well,
The-
4152 and what's the other
The reasoning that
121.
121.
that 1,500 is no longer needed is because we had a placeholder for that. I have a shared admin that supports not only assessing, but also the highway department. She is leaving us in the next, it was projected for her to leave us the end of January when her baby was due. So initially, we weren't sure if she was gonna be leaving. So we had a placeholder to carry her through her maternity, and that's why the select board reduced it down a bit. She has since moved up her departure date. She will be leaving this Friday. So we're transitioning the part-time temporary clerk who's been cross-training with her into that role. So she'll be absorbing the salary in 4152, 120.
Christina, are there any other lines that need to be adjusted because of that? Or is everything else still fine here?
Actually, it will adjust your, let me just look, your FICA.
But we're not talking about much if it's
Not
only
that
for
much.
1,500, so
1,500 more.
That's not as
that
worth-
much, right.
it's not worth our time to. Okay, great.
I was gonna say,
Yes,
let's
we
just
don't
leave it.
usually do that.
Let's just leave it, it's not a big enough thing to worry about.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to, change line 121 from the current 1,500 to 0. It's supported by the department head. I'm certainly willing to take comments, but I think this is a slam dunk. So let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? We have 7, so 7-0, that passes. Well, good luck to the new mother.
Yes.
I'm sure you've already said that, you didn't need that from me.
Sad to see her go. But
Yeah.
I think we're in a good spot.
Okay, anything? It doesn't look like there's any other big changes here.
That was another question I had.
You have another one?
That was it. That was the only one.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for property reappraisal or suggestions? Okay, then I am gonna go ahead and call a vote. We're gonna vote on section 4152 in the amended amount of $154,149.16 as amended. Seconded, I don't know, no, we'd open it up and now we're voting, so I don't think that's, I don't need that. I'm just calling for a vote on where we are. So we're voting on the amount as modified, which is the change we made, which was with the blessing of the department head. So again, I think this is straightforward. All in favor, raise your hand. I like counting hands instead of listening for ayes. Thank you. So I had 7 hands, so I don't have to ask for no's or abstentions. That passes 7-0, and we can go to the next section, which is planning board.
4191.
4191. So
I'll make a motion to move 4191 planning at an amount select board recommended amount of 9,300.
87.
It's my job to do that.
You don't carry, do you?
No.
Okay, I will second that. So we have a motion, we now have discussion of section 4191, which is planning for $9,300. Any comments? It looks like everything is level funded from last year, so it doesn't look like there's very much to.
No.
And the important thing about, I think, this section in particular is most of that 9,300 all is related to essentially the continued work on the master plan. And it's, I think, really important for us not to fall behind on that work and to kind of keep up with revising and doing our work needed on those chapters. Work, revising, adding, whatever that happens to be.
Okay.
And just to add, I'm sure that you read the note, but we are going to encumber to 6,000 that's in the budget this year to be used to finish that work. It is going to cost that much to finish the land use chapter next year. So we're encumbering money this year, and we need the additional money to pay for the rest of that chapter.
Did you find it, Walter?
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't, Janet did.
Okay, well, so I just want to make sure you have, I don't want to rush through, I don't think there's a lot to discuss here. I want to make sure you have enough time to find it and take a look at it and make sure you're comfortable. I don't think there's an opportunity here to chop money out, so I think we'll go ahead and vote on it. Anyone else have a question or comment? Not hearing any, we'll go ahead and vote. So we're voting on section 4191, which is our planning group, in the proposed, unamended proposed amount of $9,300. All in favor, raise your hand. 7 yes, so no abstentions, 0. That passes 7-0. So we'll go to the next section, which is zoning. That's still you, right?
Yeah,
It is me.
I thought so, but I just wanted to be sure.
4192.
So, thank you, Charlie.
You're welcome.
I will make a motion to consider section 4192 zoning in the amount of $2,400.
I'll second that.
And seconded by Charlie. You want to say anything? You want-
I'll just, obviously, there are a couple changes under the zoning budget, and the reason being is that we now have a fully active land use team, which is engaging in enforcing our zoning ordinances, which has resulted in an increase in cases being heard before the zoning board. So, you know, the expense side, you can see where we're running over what was previously budgeted. And however, in the revenue side, we're capturing it on the application side. So I just wanted to point that out.
That was the question I was gonna just clarify, is again, we have to do gross appropriations, so if you spend the money, we have to authorize it, but the intent is that the fees will cover the
Exactly.
expenses, and the net cost to the town should be nil or minimal.
And how many people are on the land use?
I have a permitting and enforcement officer,
Are you asking about the committees? You're asking
or
about the
the
staff?
employees,
No,
the employees and the land use.
Yeah.
I have one gentleman who is currently part-time, and he's the land use enforcement and permitting and health officer. I have a land use admin who helps support all the boards and commissions, and myself. And then I also have a land use associate, similar to Shannon, I believe, who does your minutes. Who is only part-time, she works 20 hours at most. You know,
Shannon, our minute taker?
No.
Oh,
like,
okay.
like Shannon.
She said similar to Shannon.
Similar.
Okay.
And then I have another individual, but she's more on the assessing side and highway. So, and
And
myself.
I know it's just the budget committee, but could you give us a little bit about you? We don't know anything about you. Are you
I'm
certified
In the
as a...
witness protection program. Go into much detail. No, like I said, my name's Joanne Bailey. I grew up here in Bristol. I'm a graduate. My family lives here. My dad still lives in the house I grew up in. Sadly, my mom has recently been relocated. She has Alzheimer's. But I'm the middle of 3 kids, my daughter and my son-in-law. My son-in-law actually is a former budget.
I was gonna mention, she knows your
No,
son-in-law, you might
budget
wanna mention
committee.
that Joe Christie's her son.
Kidding!
So,
Oh, you hit a button there.
but
Can I just ask you one thing? I heard a rumor. Did they have a baby?
Yes, actually 15 months ago.
Okay, a little stroll in the
So,
gossip.
yes, I have a granddaughter.
Oh, say hi to them from Gianna Kavanaugh.
And they're the new owners of the
Renaissance
Renaissance
Florist.
Florals.
Yep, they just changed the name.
No kidding.
I didn't know they sold it. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
Missy sold it back in April, so my daughter's name is Bailey. I didn't name her Bailey. She had
I know your daughter's name is Bailey.
So
So is she gonna be running
She
them?
has been running.
So then she left the hospital.
They did, yes.
Okay.
I knew Joe did, but
This is wonderful, we should do this outside the meeting.
yeah. Just say hi to them.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome to Bristol again.
Yeah, I'm back. So, that's my story.
Okay, so now, in order not to be here past midnight, any questions or comments on the zoning section of our proposed budget?
And I think I know everyone else, so.
Okay, good. So not hearing any, let's go ahead. So we're gonna vote on section 4192, which is zoning, in the unamended amount of $2,400.
Yeah.
All in favor? We have 6 ayes, and Charlie has gone for his other things that he needs to do, so we're down to 6 now for the meeting. That passes 6-0. And now we'll go to the next.
It should be 4193, the tax map.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you actually put them in order in the folder, didn't you?
Tried to.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to open discussion or to consider section 4193, which is mapping, in the amount of $8,750. I get a second from Walter. Thank you, Walter. So, I'll invite you to say something. I don't think there's really anything to say, right?
There really isn't. We are in the process of working with our mapping company We will be upgrading the mapping portal or the platform to be fully GIS. But as far as the fixed costs from a budget perspective, thanks to the select board, you really don't see a change, so.
Right.
The money for the portal was spent this year, and the select board will, it's already been determined where that money will come from, so you'll see this number change slightly, so. This year's numbers change, so.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's current year spending, yeah, but for next year, you're asking for the 8,750.
Correct.
And this is basically a use fee or a licensing fee or something, it's not,
Right, there's maintenance costs and editing costs and
okay. Anyone else have a question? Anything you want to bring up? Not hearing any, I'll go ahead and call a vote. So we're voting on section 4193, which is mapping, and it's the original unmodified amount of $8,750. All in favor? Aye. We have 6 yeses, so there are no noes and no abstentions. That passes 6-0. We will go to the next section, which is health and land use, and I know that definitely is still you.
4411.
So we're going to open discussion on section 4411, which is land use and health administration.
Do you want a page for that?
I'm opening up the small attachments, so I'm not in the whole big budget anymore. And that's in the amount of $135,744.29.
Page 23.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Buzz. So we will now discuss section 4411. Again, Joanne, anything you want to say to us before we start asking questions?
no, you can go ahead and ask.
Just to be clear, because I was sat through the select board discussions, we had this for the rest of the committee to know. Joanne had mentioned that the land use health officer is currently working 35 hours and is a part-time associate. But there's a proposal to bring him up to 40 this year.
That is
Or
correct.
in
In
24.
2024.
In 24.
That is correct.
So that's in this budget. But I know one of the things that you talked about in this, when you went over this with the select board, is that as part of his inboarding, he was already getting retirement benefits. So there's not a big, retirement is a huge,
Right.
huge chunk, but he's already getting that. So there's no additional cost other than he makes a little more money at 40 instead of 35, so a little more, but not the big thing from 0 to
Right.
retirement benefits. He already
That's
has.
correct.
I'm trying to just look real quick. I think everything else is flat or small adjustments. Anyone else? Go ahead.
No, I mean, the adjustment, I'm just trying to go backtrack a little bit, because it is up, the budget is up for the land use,
Right?
14,000. From 121 to 135, right? Or am I saying that wrong?
Nope, you're right.
Yeah.
So last year we budgeted 121, and this year we're being asked to budget 135.
Right, I just don't see that much increase, I'm looking right here, and I don't see where the big, I mean, there's little small increases, but not.
9,000 in line 120, that's the land use.
Oh,
There's
okay.
part of your 10%
Oh, I totally missed
too.
that one, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's the biggest chunk of it, I
Yes.
think.
Another 2.
So you're going up by about 14, and half of it, or a little more than half of it, is in line 120.
And then there's a new line for overtime, and that is based on we will be eliminating comp time. Most likely, the board has to vote on that this week, but the comp time will be eliminated, so we had to have a line just in case.
In case, okay.
That's a small bump though, but
Right. Yeah, I totally missed that first one.
Okay. I see Walter's still studying, so I want to stall a minute just to keep. Anything else?
Fine,
Okay. All right, not hearing any other comments or questions, let's go ahead and vote on it. We're gonna vote, so we're voting on section 4411, which is land use and health administration, and it is the unmodified, unamended amount of $135,744.29. All in favor? 6 yeses, noes, and abstentions is 0, so that passes 6-0. Animal control, that's
Well,
not.
she doesn't do animal
I
control.
know, does she have another section we need to do?
Yep, the next section would be conservation, which is
Oh,
46.
conservation in historic district.
Yep, 4611
Yep,
is the
got it.
code.
So, I'm gonna make a motion to consider section 4611, which is the Conservation Commission, in the amount of $2,400. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
28.
So, motion by Paul, seconded by Susan. We're talking about the Conservation Commission. Last year that we budgeted them for $1,850. And we're being asked to budget them for $2,400. And
Do you want Joanne can explain?
I mean, the increase, the Conservation Commission has suggested or asked to send a child or youth to a conservation camp sponsored by the UNH Extension. I think it's Berry. Is it Berry?
Yeah, I think so.
New Hampshire Fish and Game. And it was really hard to get a cost, but it ended up being about $600 to send a child to the camp. So that's the increase in that line item, which is $560.
mm-hmm.
And I will just add, they used to do this in the past. It got away. I don't know, when Sean was on the Conservation Commission, he said that they used to do this, and it got away from them and they stopped doing it and they'd like to go back to doing it again, so.
So, before we move on, just again, so I don't think I'm gonna make a motion, but I will make the comment. I made the suggestion at the select board meeting, you might remember, why we spend money to send kids, and basically that was the response. We've done it in the past, we'd like to get back into it. I really don't like it, but I really don't want to spend a lot of time talking about $1,000 line in the budget either, so if somebody else has some passion, I probably would support it, but.
Passion. Okay, here we go. I just want to confirm that after we do this tonight,
Yeah,
we can go back and adjust
that is correct.
okay.
So so just to remind everyone, at any point, if you want to go back and reconsider a section that we've already handled, what you need to do is let me know, because I'll put it on the agenda. Because we're not going to talk about something that's not on the agenda, that's not really kosher for open meeting laws. But as long as we put it on the agenda, we basically can talk about anything we want. We can go back and talk about things multiple times. So yes, that is
So I just
correct.
wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Okay. So, did you want to make a motion to change that, or you want me to go
No,
on?
you see, I
Okay.
didn't get the paperwork till tonight.
Okay.
So,
I just want to clarify on line 690. You'd originally asked for 300 and the select board bumped that up to 700. Can you explain to the committee, or?
That's because of the Planky Spring, maintaining that area out there, having with gravel and Mark and the highway department. We're proposing to do that a couple times a year, and so that hadn't been allocated.
Thank you. I just want, I was pretty sure I remembered, but I wasn't 100% sure. I want to make sure that basically they're proposing that the parking lot in front of the spring tends to get holes in it. We're talking about trying to keep that a little smoother, and that's what that additional money is for.
And it's just for the cost of the gravel. The highway department does the work, but if it doesn't come out of here, it just comes out of their regular hourly work.
Okay? So at this point, does anyone have other questions or want to make any motions to amend? Hearing silence, I'll take that as no, there are not. And so let's go ahead and vote on section 4611, Conservation Commission, in the amount of $2,400. Oh, no, keep going. $2,400. So yes, we're approving it. All in favor? Okay, 6-0, no's and extensions, so passes 6-0. The historic district also is yours?
Yeah,
4612.
that's the last one.
So I'll make a motion to consider section 4612, so it should be this, the next one in the budget, which is the Historic District Commission in the amount of $550.
Second.
Seconded by Les. Anything, Joanne, you want us to
I
just?
was just gonna say, I've even gone down from last year's budget, so, yeah.
To Joanne's point, last year we budgeted $800, and this year we're budgeting $550. We're being asked to budget $550. That was the comment I was gonna make under the Conservation Commission, the same one here. No matter what we budget, it doesn't seem like we spend very much.
Right.
It's hit or miss. It just depends on what work is done in the historic district.
So, anyone have a question or want to make a motion? I think this is pretty small, so I'm expecting no. Not hearing any, let's go ahead and vote on it. So we're voting now on section 4612, which is the Historic District Commission in the amount of $550. All in favor? 6 yeses, noes, and abstentions are 0. It passes 6-0. Joanne, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully that wasn't too painful.
It wasn't.
Good.
And I appreciate everyone's time and support.
All right, so now we will go back up to section 4441, Welfare Administration. Christine, if I get it wrong, let me know, but I think that's the one that we wanted to next.
Yep.
So I'm gonna make a motion to move section 4441, which is Welfare Administration, in the amount of $13,813.31. Did I get a second?
I'll second.
Susan seconds that. Ingrid, anything you want to say before we start grilling you?
Hi, I only have 2 sections. That's all I got for opening jokes.
Alrighty.
No, I mean, obviously my budget's divided into 2 parts. So again, this section we're looking at right now is welfare administration. So that's essentially the running of the department as opposed to the other section, which is vendor payments, which is
Right,
assistance that is paid out.
right. So,
I will just
Christina.
add one thing.
Go ahead.
So in the review of the FICA Medicare retirement, the retirement wasn't budgeted correctly, and that's why you see a jump there. We
Oh, in this section on 4441, 230?
Yeah, so.
So the reason it went up from 700 to 1500 is because of financial error.
Yeah, potentially, yes. And we don't know what happened. It could have been a formula in a spreadsheet, but it has been adjusted and fixed.
Okay. I don't have any questions or comments. Does anyone else?
I think 13,000 is too much. It goes up every year, and it's not a busy department. So I question it.
I hear what you say, and I'm gonna fall back to what I said before. I don't feel comfortable. I don't think it's appropriate for the budget committee to be changing individual salary lines. To me, who gets hired and how much they get paid is town policy, and that's set by the select board. So I don't even really want to think about that. I don't wanna comment about whether I agree or disagree with you, because fundamentally, I don't want to be changing individual employees' salaries in this meeting. I also think that it's a little bit not counterproductive, that's not the word I want, but if we change that line, I bet, I mean, I have like strong confidence, 99 out of 100, the select board's just gonna find a few dollars floating around somewhere else and restore that. I mean, it's a bottom line budget, they control they can shuffle things between individual lines.
Then
So-
why are we here?
Because we provide the confidence to the taxpayers that when we ask them to provide the budget, we've done the due diligence that it adds up and it makes sense.
Well, I'll just take that line right now.
So
The
so-
population does not trust.
So let me stop. I need to stop, because actually what I should do is say, Janet, would you like to make a motion?
No, because I just got the paperwork, so I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying, and as I said before, you can always ask for this to be reconsidered. But if you want to make a motion, we would look for a second and we'd have the discussion. If you're not going to make a motion,
No.
then
Then
well,
I
Yeah.
make a
Yeah.
motion that we wait to consider it.
so you
Table it.
want to table the whole discussion of 44, 41 till a later date? Okay. Does anyone want to second Walter's motion?
I will.
Okay. So you want to. Okay. You want to talk to your motion, Walter?
Yes, there's more than one line I've considered bringing up. And I'm gonna support Janet's questioning of this because there's some I'm gonna wanna question. And I don't wanna blanket, we're not gonna question the select board anywhere, because I am this year gonna question.
Okay. Just to clarify, I didn't say that we wouldn't question them anyway. I said that I.
Sorry, that's the way I.
Maybe I didn't say it right. I'm specifically saying on employee salaries.
And that's the lines I'm looking at.
Okay.
I brought that up at last meeting. It's my intention to start at the bottom and work my way up, and I'll say it right now. It's my intention, nobody get a raise greater than the lowest raise that goes out there percentage-wise.
Okay.
If there's a raise, and I don't want to get into payroll, but say there was a raise here, wasn't there a raise in April? Or am I,
This isn't next year, this is this year. The raise that's in this budget
Yeah.
is this year's raise. This has nothing to do with next year's increases. This is
Next
what
year's
was,
increases are an employee.
they're in personnel.
So the one that got
the
voted
personnel
on
budget.
in April 2023, it has been implemented?
This
That's what I'm
is
trying
it.
to find out.
Correct.
That's
Yes,
all.
this is it. What's in this budget is what was approved for the 2023 budget.
Okay, so this would be added to it. I thought this was the
No.
big.
So,
No, so when you vote on when you vote on your budget, all the increases for the employees are in the personnel line, not this line.
Okay.
When they're passed for 2023, they move here.
I'm actually going to stop you for a second, because I believe that once a motion is made to table,
Oh, yeah.
we really shouldn't keep discussing.
No further.
We should vote on the motion to table, and if it's passed, then we table it and move on, and if it's not passed, then we go back to discussion. So let's stop discussing. We
Okay.
have a motion made to table section 4411. We have a second. So I don't think we even want to have a discussion about whether or not to table. We're just going to vote. So if you're voting yes, you're voting in favor of the motion to table 4411, and we'll consider this section of the budget at a future meeting. If you vote no, we will continue discussing and expecting that eventually we will vote on this section. Clear?
Clear.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to table section 4441, raise your hand, please. All opposed? Okay, the motion fails 2-3, so we will continue to discuss. So now discussion, Les, please.
So, the select board, this is an area of the budget that the town could really end up spending a lot of money on. And Ingrid, to her credit, has made sure that she hits every other organization before it comes to the town, and has saved the town thousands of dollars by doing so. So to see a welfare budget in this time that hasn't changed significantly is a pretty good accomplishment in my opinion.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I am going to stick with my original comment that even though I agree, I think Ingrid does a great job, whether she does a great job or not, I don't want to change individual salary lines in the budget. So I'm going to leave it at that. So I am intending to vote for the amount that's currently unamended, with the understanding that at a later date, if Janet wants to reopen this, I will support reopening it, and then she can make a motion to change that number, and we can go back and talk about it at that time. I still think that I won't support that. I support Janet's right to make the motion.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on 4441 before I call a vote? Not hearing any comments or any proposed motions. We'll now call a vote. So we're voting on approving the budget section 4441 for welfare administration in the current amount of $13,813.31. All in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? And abstentions, there are none. So it passes 5-1. Thank you for that, for sitting through that. So now let's go on to welfare vendor payments. So that's the next section, I think it is, but it's 4445. So I'm making a motion to consider section 4445, which is vendor payments in the amount of $28,900. Could I get a second? I heard a couple of voices. Susan?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so motion by Paul, seconded by Susan for 4445 vendor payments for $28,900, which is level funded from last year.
Correct.
So I stole your line there, but anything else you'd like to say?
Well, I'm just going to reiterate it. No, as you can see, it's level funded. Thought about this long and hard. You know, at the end of the day, I really do believe that this is as low as we can realistically go at this time. Numbers are low. You know, I've had approximately, I don't have exact numbers, 175 contacts. Those contacts I consider a contact as someone is reaching out to my office. Year to date, I've had approximately 75 applications. So that's someone who has come in, completed an application, dropped it off, and started going through this process. So whilst those numbers don't seem very small, but very large, there's a lot of work associated with that. Those 175 contacts aren't necessarily people who are applying for assistance, but they're looking for help in one shape or form. They're not necessarily assistance that the town offers. Recent phone call, transportation situation to get to doctor's appointments. It's that need, that human services need, not just welfare. Whilst the department is referred to as welfare, it's referred to as welfare instead of human services, as we just changed it back, because that is a more widely used phrase nationwide. But that human services aspect, this is still the department that they're still reaching out to. So those contacts are quite numerous, and it does take a lot of time in order to do that. Welfare is a 10-hour-a-week position for me. It takes 10 hours. There's also a lot of work back of house, I'll use that phrase, in continuing to go back through old records and make sure that liens are being dealt with, that old cases where people were given assistance that may now be in a position where they can start paying the town back are put in contact again. That takes time. There's three or four-door filing cabinets, just down the hallway. There are, I don't know how many boxes I got stored up there. A lot.
I think
Too many to
Yeah, it's too many to count that, we're working on going through, getting organized, getting digitized, so that this is a simpler process in the future and can maintain being a simpler process, that there isn't all this paperwork that, quite frankly, a lot of it's fading. You know, so it gets harder and harder to read.
Gotcha.
You know, and you're still trying to track down people.
What is the success rate of getting money back to the town?
This past year, slim. Yeah, I mean, the year before
So
that.
is it cost effective?
It can be, yeah, it can be, because you've got people who are selling properties who there are liens on their properties. You know, there's a lien put on there and they go, well, why is there a lien? Whilst there's no requirement in the state of New Hampshire for them to pay back a welfare lien, you know, there are people
I just
who go,
wonder if it's cost effective, that's all.
$1,000 back is $1,000 back.
But how much did it cost us?
Yeah, all those records still have to be gone through anyway, Janet, so it's
Just
really
a question.
long, yeah. Well,
I feel kind of funny, if I was down and out and I came to you for help and you helped me, and then through my own initiative, I started to improve my situation, you're gonna make me pay you back for the help you gave me while I was down and out? I wouldn't support that.
It is a downside, Walter, but at the end of the day, the state has the law that is there that allows the town to recuperate funds. It's not, let me be clear, it's not Walter's applied for assistance, he's been granted $1,000 rental assistance January 1st, and on February 1st, Walter's getting a letter. You know, it's ensuring, there's that long-term aspect of continuing to make sure that someone is able to continue to help themselves. It's not January 1st they get the money, February 1st they get a letter that says, come on, Walter, you need to pay that $1,000 back to the town of Bristol. You know, it's making sure. I help people with their budgets. You know, people aren't sure how to get back on track. That is part of human services. They've got themselves into a situation from one reason or another. Husbands left, boyfriends left, wives left, whatever the case is. You know, lost a job, helping them figure things out, helping them get back on their feet so they are in a situation to potentially pay back the town at a future date.
Yeah, so it's nothing that you're gonna do, like you said, right, overnight, it's not.
Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, Sue, the folks that are coming to me for assistance,
Yeah.
they didn't get themselves into the situation overnight, they're not gonna get themselves out of the situation overnight either.
Exactly, now what do they have to do to qualify? I mean, what do they have to come up with for information, all that stuff?
So there's a 23-page application. They have to provide a variety of different information, from bank statements to bills, receipts for payments for things that they've purchased in the last 3 months, confirmation from their employer that they're actually employed, rental verification, all those items. They also have to prove that they've applied for different forms of assistance through the state, through other forms of private funding. All of that stuff is there because at the end of the day, as I said, the RSA states we are the last resort.
Right.
You know, so they have to have gone through that whole process. And unfortunately, that is not something that people just know.
No.
I didn't.
Right.
I wouldn't have known how to do it. So, you know, it was a steep learning curve for me at the beginning, for sure, but it's helping people through those steps and making sure. So as I say, those numbers sound like they're very small numbers, but when you're doing 10 hours a week, it takes up a lot of time. It really does.
A lot of things.
Yeah, so it may be a small department that's not got that much going on by the sounds of it, but it's really not.
Right.
Buzz, did you have something?
Yeah, could you just speak to the electricity and rent lines, which were relatively modest compared to the level funded amounts we're being asked to approve? The actual expenses.
The actual, well, those are the expenditures that have occurred so far this year. They've been kept that low because they've been able to get people assistance through other forms. I'll use Eversource for an example. Did a great program over the summer where they were helping folks who were essentially at the point of being shut off. That it was I can't remember what they called it for the life of me right now, I'm sorry. But it's basically a forgive your debt, but you're going to get on a payment plan. You will work with your payment plan. If you don't, you know, on their end, if you don't make your payment plan, then it's a whole other ballgame.
Go ahead.
I just was gonna add to, so 2020 through part of 2022, there were funding sources for people as well with rent. based from COVID. There was a lot of them, and those avenues are all drying up. They're being eliminated, so this number may not look like much because they've been applying through those avenues. We just got a $35,000 check for someone, separate than welfare, but because they applied through those avenues on a tax deferral and paid back the town. So, but we've been told that they will be expiring, so.
The comment that I want to make for the other committee members is, I look at this section similar to the way that I look at the legal section. We really don't know what's coming. It's kind of a guess, and we have to do what we have to do. So I didn't know before I got on this committee that by state law, if a person is in need and they can't find it anywhere else, they come to Bristol and we have to help them. So if the economy gets bad and other sources of aid dry up, the actual spend could go up, and we don't have the ability to say no. So you can argue, if you want, that we could change these numbers, but it doesn't really affect what actually gets spent. What gets spent is what our administrator manages to keep it down as low as possible.
It wasn't that long ago that this budget was over $100,000.
I didn't know that, but I knew that it had been much higher in the past. So.
And that's just this budget. That's just 4445. That's not the other budget. That's just this alone.
Yes, yeah.
The assistance was well over $100,000.
So that I just want to make sure everyone is aware. You're new, so
I just wondered what caused the discrepancy.
yeah.
I'm not going to question her judgment.
Okay.
Unfortunately, those were the ones, basically, Buzz, that I couldn't get help anywhere else. Darn it.
All right. Okay, so not hearing any motions to change or any other questions, let's go ahead and vote on section 4445, which is welfare vendor payments in the amount of $28,900. All in favor? 6 yes, no's and abstains are zeros. It passes 6-0. That's your two sections, right?
That's my two sections.
All right. Hopefully have a good rest of the evening.
You as well.
So, you want to go back to animal control?
Sure.
Where are we on for what?
It's
4414. So I'm making a motion to move section 4414, which is animal control, in the amount of $200.
I'll second.
So Susan seconds that. So it's $200, people. Let's not spend a lot of time on this one.
No, it's a safety expense, so yeah.
Not hearing any comments or questions, we will now call a vote on section 4414, animal control in the amount of $200. All in favor? It passes 6-0. Excellent. Thank you. Parks and Recs? Kelly, Park, and Patriotic are the last three. Do you care what order we do them, Les?
It's in there. What? It's in there.
What numbers we starting?
45, 40.
No, I don't care.
45, 20, I'm sorry. You don't care what order?
Nope.
All right, let's do Parks and Rec, which is TTTC. So I'm making a motion to consider section 4520, which is Parks and Recreation, in the amount of $122,115. Anyone else want to second that?
I will.
Okay, Walter.
Yeah.
So motion from Paul, seconded by Walter, for section 4520 for $122,115. Les, you want to
Sure.
give us a little spiel before we ask questions?
Absolutely. So basically, the increases come down to staffing. And what we found with summer program this year, we are way over budget on what we had expected to spend on salaries because we had to add a fourth camp. And so that's never happened. The camps were full within 2 or 3 days, all camps. People stay up until midnight on March 1st.
Oh, when your registration
It opens
opens?
March 1st, and some of those camps were full within a day. And that left 60 kids on a waiting list. And we just didn't feel like we could leave 60 kids on a waiting list. So we were able to secure Bristol Elementary School as an alternate site, and we hired more staff and ran a 4th camp. So, and I anticipate in the future that's how it's gonna be, just because pre-COVID, that would never happen. I would tell people, you have a few weeks. As long as you register within a few weeks, you should be good. And now it could be the next day and they can't get into camp. And for us, that's devastating. For parents, it's a real problem. So we were able to take everybody off the waiting list this summer, but I don't anticipate those costs going down for program salaries. And we just keep adding programs. We have added another person part-time, or 32 hours a week, because we have our Operation Warm program, Every Child Desires, all these programs that we have added, but haven't added staff to. So now we're trying to keep up with it, and we're also doing major building projects. So it's time to hire staff. So that's kind of where we're at. And I believe most of that increase is right there in salaries.
So I'll start, listening to what you said, so this isn't the whole DTC budget, so we're not doing gross appropriation here. So when you add a 4th camp, you're also adding a 4th set of campers that are paying fees. So you're
Correct.
basically saying that you run the camps at a loss?
They do, at times they do run at a
Okay.
loss.
I just wanted to clarify.
This year they definitely ran at a loss. And part of that is the busing costs have gone up. We're really trying to hold the line at $100 a week, because $100 a week, although it's a really good rate compared to other camps, it's expensive for a lot of families. And then we do offer scholarships. So Bristol was 14,000 something that we gave out in scholarships for kids to go to camp or to go to after school. So, it basically, after school program and summer program always ran at a loss. And after school program has started to come to where it's a break even, which was great. But now, and what we're looking at in next year, the budget, is if the after school grant goes away, which it looks like it's going to, the school has had it for, I believe, 25 years. They've been able to reapply and get that after-school funding for Project Promise. But that funding is done as of June. And so the chances of them getting that funding again, they really want you to be self-sustaining within the 5 years, 25 years, it's still not self-sustaining. So what's gonna happen if that closes is we're gonna be looking at having to have an alternate location for after school as well, because those families are all gonna need after school care. So we're anticipating a big increase in numbers that way as well.
Okay.
What's the increase for? I mean, are there more children have moved into the area, or they're of a certain age?
So, no, but Project Promise has after-school programs in all of their schools, except for, I think there's in Bridgewater too. So they have a certain number of kids, probably a couple hundred kids between all those programs. Once that program closes, that's 200 kids that are gonna be looking for a place to go after school. So, and the school has already approached us over the past few years to say, will you be ready to take this on if that happens? And we've said, in our current building, there's no way we can take that on. But if we may, we've used the old town hall before. The schools would be open to let us bring staff there, but it's a huge leap. So I'm kind of hoping they write the grant and that it's successful, but the chances are very slim, I think, that would happen. So we're preparing to take on a lot more kids.
Are these kids just from Bristol?
Nope,
Or is
they're
it
from
the surrounding?
8 towns.
8 towns?
Yeah.
And do those 8 towns contribute to?
Yes. Yep, it's all broken down under the town portions.
I didn't get that far.
So, each town contributes a certain amount based on participation.
Mhm.
So the two questions that I have are,
Can we didn't open, did we open this up for questions? Did you open it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, we made a
I'm sorry,
motion, we made a motion and Walter seconded,
Okay.
they were discussing this section of
Must
the
have been
budget.
zoning.
There's
Sorry.
not, there's just the one line. You've acquired some land and have announced that you're looking to build another building. I've heard you've gotten good results from your grant writer and your capital raising programs have been successful so far. I guess the question I'm thinking about that I'm trying to ask is, if you already have salaries and operating costs for the building you have now, and then you build another building, should we expect that in a couple of years when that other building opens, you're gonna see a big increase in operating costs?
We're hoping not. I mean, we will see a definite increase, but there's a lot of potential other ways to get income once
Okay,
you have that building
okay,
that we're looking at.
okay.
So our plan is not, and our plan has been absolutely not going to the towns for any of the building costs of doing these projects.
I knew you weren't asking us to, as taxpayers, to support building the building, but as taxpayers, we help with the operating costs of the current building. I didn't know if.
And I can't tell you that we won't see that. I mean, if we're pulling in that many more kids, we'll make it as palatable as we can to break even on those programs, but I wouldn't sit here and tell you it won't happen,
Okay,
but we're doing everything we can to make sure it doesn't happen.
okay.
Where is the land?
So we purchased what was the Ford property at the corner of the middle school.
If you go north,
What's there?
if you go north on North Main Street,
Yeah,
and you go past the you go past the bus corral in the middle school,
yeah,
the first lot on your left used to have a house on it.
yes.
They own that land now, they've torn the house down.
Oh, but there's a foundation there.
No, not anymore.
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm talking the wrong
It's
place.
right on the corner of Union
And North Main.
and North Main.
I
So
thought
it's
they
right in next to the middle school entryway.
Oh, okay. Because hours before it, at the old liquor store, light, and you're heading north, there used to be a house there.
Oh, that was.
And when we came through yesterday, the house was gone, but there was still a
Yeah, that's
foundation.
over on Lake Street.
Yes,
We're talking on
yeah,
North
yeah.
Main Street.
Oh, yeah.
Behind,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I knew
behind
that
the
all the time.
house.
Yeah.
The foundation is new, they're rebuilding.
So my other question, this is just for my own, but if the proposal to dissolve the regional school district goes away, have you guys talked about how that affects you? Do you still serve Newfound and those 3 towns go away, or you serve Newfound plus the 3 towns?
We serve the Newfound region. We're not affiliated with the school
But
district.
right now you do the 8 towns that send kids to our regional school district.
Correct. Those 8 towns of kids could still come to the center for after-school programs, summer camps, all of those things.
Even if they have their own elementary school and start sending their kids to Plymouth for middle and high school. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it could.
No, I was trying to bite back my response.
I'm just thinking this might be another thing to make clear to people in those towns. That's another reason you don't want them to leave our district, but
Those towns we wouldn't do that.
Okay.
Those towns are our our
Gotcha.
towns.
Okay.
So we will support having their kids in our programs for as long as they're our towns. If they should decide, say a town, like Bridgewater maybe, decided that their kids were gonna go to Plymouth afterwards, but their elementary kids would still be in Bridgewater, still gonna want summer camp, still gonna need after school. There are a lot of families that choose the center to send their kids to after school and a lot that choose Project Promise. And some of it's based on what the activities are. If you really want your kid to get their homework done and be doing educational activities, we're more recreational, burning off the energy, getting those things done. They still do homework, but we serve different needs.
Gotcha.
So, yes.
Can I ask, what is the percentage that the parents pay for the children to go to these to go to camp and all this stuff? What's the percentage that you receive?
Parents pay $100 a week.
$100 a week for that. Now, is after school care a different price? or-
Oh, yeah,
all that stuff is
after school care,
Mhm.
is $40 a week if they go full-time.
Yeah.
And it's $8 a day, which that will probably go up
Yeah,
in September.
yeah.
And you offer a snack in the afternoon?
Yep, they have a snack, they can be there from 2:30, well, some of the schools get out at 2:30 and till 5:30.
Right.
And we're averaging, well, we have 92, I think, last Friday, but that was because Project Promise at BES is having a problem with getting enough staff to cover their kids. So they're bringing them over with us with their staff, which is great. So we spike up on a Friday, but normally it's about 72 kids a day.
Wow.
It's a lot, it's
Yeah.
noisy.
Yeah.
And do you only just have those 2 bathrooms on the first floor?
On the main floor, there's 3 bathrooms.
Oh, there's 3 bathrooms.
There's 2 bathrooms that the kids use, there's 1 bathroom that the staff prefers. But that's all gonna change because in the spring, we'll be ripping out all of those existing bathrooms. We're gonna have a handicap ramp coming along the side of the building and a lift that will go from the main floor to the cellar. It won't go to the top because once we get into the new building, it doesn't make sense to put an elevator into this building for
Yeah.
all 3 floors, but.
Yeah.
So yes, yeah, I don't see our numbers decreasing.
Mm.
I used that bathroom once.
Yeah, that's, well, and Rick Alpers is the chair now, and I think that was his mission for being on the board was, I don't wanna see those bathrooms used ever again. And I look at them and I'm like, that bathroom seemed fine to me, I mean, they've done that way since I was a kid. But it appears it's a problem, so we'll have all handicap bathrooms.
Any other
Well,
questions?
it
Walter?
I think
explains.
the Tapley Thompson expense is the best money this town spends, and I'll be delighted to support it.
I think that
Your
Tapley-
professional service has doubled in your projection. Well, now I understand why.
Right, yes.
Yeah, you have to hear the story,
Architects
and then, yeah.
And some of that money is going to come back to us because we received a $1 million grant for our renovations to that building, and we have to match $150,000. It's gonna cost us more than that by the time we get it done, as you can well imagine.
Oh, yeah.
But then we are in the running for $1.5 million that we were approved for through Gene Shaheen's discretionary funds to build towards the new building. And of course, the budget hasn't completely passed Congress, so I hear everybody's optimistic that that money will still come through, so we may have that towards the new building. And we have a couple of new options towards the new building that I don't really wanna talk about publicly yet, but.
Don't talk
the
about them
things-
before they hatched.
It's potentially, we could have a second space sooner rather than later, so. Yeah, so all of those have been, and the grant writer has made a huge difference. That was a very good investment on our part.
They're not, I remember Nick had gone to classes for grant writing, so it's no one in the building that's doing it.
We have a person that's in our building.
They hired
Oh, in
somebody.
your building?
We
Oh,
have a
okay.
full-time person to write not just grants, marketing, step it up right across the board, and he's done a great job.
So the woman that does the advertising that is passed out,
Claire?
yeah, she didn't lose her job, did she?
No, that's
No.
separate from the center. I'm talking about the community center, not the town.
Okay.
People often get that confused.
Yeah.
Because most of your towns have a municipal recreation department. So we're one of the few that doesn't have
We
that.
have a regional operation, but I would agree with you, Walter. Bristol is generally a nice place to live, and Tapley Thompson contributes quite a bit to that, so I hear you.
Kept a lot of kids out of trouble,
Mhm.
especially wearings.
Goes for all of us.
All right, so, any other comments? I don't think we're gonna get a motion to amend, so I'm gonna go ahead and call a vote. So let's vote on section 4520, which is Parks and Recreation. in the amount of $122,115. All in favor? Against? Abstained?
Abstain.
Yeah, so that passes 5-0-1.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So let's go to Kelly Park. So this is section 4522. So I'm gonna make a motion to move section 4522, which is Kelly Park, in the amount of $39,898.
26.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone wanna give me a second, please? Walter. So motion from Paul, seconded by Walter, to move 4522 Kelly Park for $39,898. Les, you want us to just?
Sure. So we did level fund.
Yep.
You'll see that very little money has been spent out of the master plan, which we probably shouldn't even call it master planning anymore, but this year.
Mm-hmm.
But our plan is to encumber the funds from this year, what's left, and put it toward with the 20,000, because we want to put a path from the tennis court parking lot to the playground to make it accessible. A lot of people struggle getting into the concerts because we're trying not to let people drive out onto the park, because that can be dangerous too. So this path will be something that will make it much easier for handicap accessibility and get people down there, and then we'll start working in the future on making some of those elements more handicap accessible as well.
So a solid path, you mean like a solid
Yeah, I believe he's talking pavement.
pavement, yeah.
Yeah, so we're just waiting on some prices to lock in between, the town will do some of the work, but there'll be some substantial expenses as well. And everything else stayed the same. We did have somebody actually fill the position this summer, which was wonderful.
I was gonna bring that up. I heard that you've got somebody and that they do a good job.
They did a good job. They started a little later, so we didn't spend the whole budget, but they did a great job, and it made a big difference for us and for the downtown decorating, and help with the highway department as far as getting things done. And having somebody personally overseeing the park where they'll notice if something happens quicker, and instead of waiting for our staff to say, oh, this happened, and then trying to have the highway department try to find time to come down and fix it. So this has been a really good thing to do.
Okay. Any reason not to call the vote? Anyone have any comments or motions? Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and vote on section 4522 Kelly Park in the amount of $39,898. All in favor? That passes 6, no against and no abstentions, 6-0. Just
Yeah,
to
that's not my budget. I mean, it's my budget to present, but it's not my personal.
No, I guess for myself and maybe everybody on the committee, just to clarify, is Kelly Park is
The towns.
the town's. I know the town owns it, so the town administers it and you handle that for the town. Is that a correct way to think of it?
So it's actually written in my job description from back in Wink's time, I think, that you will be the superintendent of the park.
Okay.
And so we don't call it that. Mark oversees the park from a highway standpoint. And so anything we do goes through Mark to make sure that he's good with it and nothing happens. But the community center has always scheduled the park. So when it comes to scheduling, we keep the master schedule and we do that. We do repairs, we've added to the back of the dugouts. You know, we'll invest money in the park as we see things that need to be done that might not be able to be done in the budget. So it's just been that type of relationship all these years, and an expectation that the director is going to make sure those things happen.
Okay. So, I mean, the park is definitely a town asset, but we have such a close working relationship with the center that it is kind of a melded situation.
Well, and to make it worse, Wells Field
Yeah.
is actually the state owns.
Yeah.
I heard that,
They
yes.
lease it to the town of Bristol. The community center does it all.
You handle all of that paperwork and all of that?
Anything, so all of the buildings, all of the improvements out there, the center's done all of that. So, I hope the state never decides to take it back. I think they'd have a hard time at this point,
I think
but
so.
they've been really good with us to let us do what we've done there.
Did we never want to purchase that or take it over from the town or from the
We-
state?
I would prefer not to purchase it personally. Well, it's already off the tax.
I guess
roll.
the point is, if you figure that the state can't really take it back, why would we come up with money to buy
Yeah.
property that we already have the use of?
Can't- Well,
We-
not to say they can't, because they
Oh,
could.
they could,
Absolutely.
and we've talked about it, a few years back, it was proposed that maybe we should go to the state and ask to purchase it. My understanding at the time was if we were to do that, there are other organizations that would have first dibs, like housing
Yeah.
and things like that, that would have the first bite at it. And we just said, we're
Yeah,
not
don't,
touching
yeah.
that.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay. So we have one more section to handle, so I'm gonna make a motion to consider section 4583, which is patriotic purposes. The amount is $29,600.
Second.
Seconded
Where
by
are we?
Buzz.
I'm sorry, where are we?
We're on
Page
4583.
28.
Okay.
28.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, again, to Les's point, this is level funded. Anything else you wanna,
I can only speak to the 25,000 piece.
the first two?
The first two, which are our special events coordinators contract,
Mm-hmm,
which we upped last year, actually. I think Janet, we were grateful to Janet for going, because we
Yes,
found
yes, I do
out it was
remember
gonna
that
be more
discussion
money
last year,
after
yep.
the fact,
Yep.
and so we did up that. And then the other piece is the community events, so that's your concerts, Halloween, the Christmas tree lighting, it's all the events that go on Old Home Day, wrapped into that. And then Claire has done a really good job of getting sponsorships over the summer so that we can afford to do more concerts. We now do the big community day, which is a nice event. It was the day that, I can't think of the name of the police, what's that day, the police?
National Night Out?
National Night Out, it was National Night Out, but what we were finding is we couldn't get people, we couldn't get a lot of things.
right, so it was kind of the
it's
same event,
national.
but it had a different name this year.
So we just made it Community Night Out, and it's still the same event, but it's just not affiliated with National. So yes, so that's, the other two lines, downtown decorating and patriotic purposes are not part of the events budget.
So Christina, what are patriotic purposes?
Patriotic purposes are the flags for the town.
On the light poles?
No, the ones on the light poles, the ones that are on the, like out here, we have.
Oh, on the light
flags.
pole.
Yeah, we also have, that also pays for the flags at the cemeteries. I think one year, I think it's a $700 fee and they solicit us and they go out, they take care of it all. I wonder if that will change. I have to look into that. And I don't dare to say the association's name because I always say the wrong one. But one of the organizations goes out and puts the flags in the cemeteries, and the town pays for that, the cost of the flags only. So
Okay. And the downtown decorating committee, that's
all the decorating that you see throughout the town, including the wreaths that you'll see on the buildings now. All the decorating that you saw for events.
but I was just gonna confirm that they're like the Passaquanti, that this is materials and they donate their time, right?
They
I
donate
just
their
wanna
time.
confirm that for everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that, actually.
This is
That's
strictly
what it is.
materials throughout the year, and not everything's been booked into that fund. They use actually the shed that's out here now has been created for them, and they store all of their decorating stuff in the shed now. And they buy the stuff that decorates the Christmas tree. They get the Christmas tree in as well. that's downtown.
The light poles,
They do, the baskets on the light poles, and, yeah. Trying to remember what else, but
all the water.
they volunteer all their time to water.
Now, are these the same people from this one, the same people?
There's some people that are on both, but they're
Right.
two separate
Yeah.
entities.
Alright, yeah.
Yeah, I have some neighbors who drive around the truck with the water on the back and water all the plants.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, any other comments? All right, so let's go ahead and vote on section 4583 patriotic purposes in the amount of $29,600. All in favor? So that's 6 yeses, so the noes and abstains are 0, it passes 6-0. So we are done with the sections of the budget that we were planning to do tonight. I will take the opportunity to make the comment that this is working out kind of the way I expected. You look at every single line and it seems reasonable, and we, other than taking out the radar from the police department, which we're expecting the town is still probably gonna spend our money, we haven't made any changes, so your comment about the select board did a good job, I think is true, but we're not gonna, at this rate, we're not gonna see a lot of reductions or changes by this committee, so
I think
if
we
you,
have
if you,
to.
if you
I
want that,
disagree with you.
so the reason I'm bringing it up is that I would like to see that, so I'm challenging myself, but I'm also pointing out to everyone else, if you wanna see some changes, do your homework and come to the meeting prepared to make some suggestions, because right at this rate, we're not making a lot of changes, that's, I'm not disagreeing with you, Janet, I just wanna point out that if you want something different, we're gonna have to do something different.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's sort of scary.
It is kind of scary.
It really
It
is.
is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I had it all right here, and I didn't have to put together my.
All right, so now, the next item on our agenda is approving the minutes of our previous meeting on November 14th. So the draft minutes were sent out with the invitation. I'll ask my captain of detail over there, anything?
I found one.
I knew you would.
It's on the second page in the paragraph number 4652. The third line down after my name, there's a double period.
Okay.
That's it.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Well, I have one.
All right,
Only because, I don't know what she heard, but at the member select board comments, it says here, Ms. Goodwin stated that there will be the fire department and police department will be coming on December 12th. And I said, I would not be able to attend the 12th. I didn't say I would not be able to attend December meetings. So it wasn't both December, you know what I mean, like December 12th.
oh, I see what you're
12th.
saying, you said that last sentence, Ms. Sedano stated
Yes.
she would not be able to attend December meeting, it's only the 12th.
It's
that
only
you're-
the 12th,
Right,
yeah, yeah,
okay, thank you for clarifying that.
yeah.
Christina will fix that.
Yep.
Any
So-
other?
I have a question about the budget committee.
All right, before you do that, I
Okay.
want to wrap up the minutes. Any other comments
I'm
or
sorry.
corrections on the minutes? Okay, so I'm going to make a motion now to approve the minutes as amended with the comments from Buzz and Susan for our meeting on, actually, I should have made a motion before we started discussing, so I messed that up. But I'm making a motion now to approve the minutes as amended. Can I get a second? Buzz, and now we will vote. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. They are approved. Thank you for helping me recover from that procedural. Next step is correspondence. I don't think I have any. Did you want to talk about, this isn't really budget committee work, so I don't think it comes up. Okay.
It was just to explain where I was going.
All right. Does anyone else have any correspondence pertaining to the budget committee that they would like to share with the rest of the committee? Okay, member comments. Let's go around. Susan, do you have any comments you wanted to make at this time?
I do not, I have nothing.
Janet, you said you did.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is Shannon taking our minutes?
She is.
Then why is Christina taking our minutes?
I'm not taking your minutes. I'm just correcting them.
Okay, because when Nick was here, he never came to our meetings. And so now you're here, and to me, it looks like you take the minutes.
I'm working.
Oh.
I have the ability to work on my computer upstairs at the same time, so I listen and work at the same time.
Okay,
So just to clarify, this
because everything seems to, you know,
So I have talked to Shannon. What she is doing is she is going in and looking at the recording of this meeting and writing the minutes based on reviewing the recording. And then what she is doing is she's sending her first draft to me, and I review it and give her comments back, and then that version is sent out with the invitation to everyone else, so that everyone gets a comment, an opportunity to review and comment. So that's how we're handling minutes.
are we going to get the printouts on Fridays like we used to?
We are aiming,
Last year, we used to get them on Fridays.
see, when you started to ask the question and I was gonna answer it, but you asked a different question. So I am aiming to get the invitation out, but that has electronic copies of the agenda and the minutes and all the appropriate budget sections 6 to 7 days before the meeting. So I like to get it out on Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, so that people have a chance to look at it. If you're not comfortable with the electronic copies and you want paper copies, Christina has been trying to accommodate that.
But I don't think it's fair for her to have to do that.
I print them for Shannon already. So Shannon comes in, she came in and set up a meeting last night, and I print a set and she makes copies from it. But she can't come in as frequently as she used to.
Oh.
But we chose to have her come back because she does a wonderful job on the minutes. So, but we could certainly, if the invitation goes out like when you want it to go out,
I guess
then we can print a set. That's no problem.
I guess the thing I'm struggling with, Janet, and I want to be careful here because I don't want to, but so in past years, we would get a big 11 by 17 piece of paper from Bob with the budget, and I know I can't print that at home, but like the agenda and the minutes that are on letter paper that you're getting electronically, I guess what I'm not clear on is if you can't handle them electronically, you can't print them at
I
home?
can't print.
You don't have a printer?
Oh, we've had many people over, we've got 2 printers recently, and I showed Christina tonight, what's this message? I can't print.
Okay.
So I'm having a terrible time printing. So that's why I was asking.
I don't
We can-
print them either.
Well,
I mean,
Can we agree that they can get printed before the weekend and that they'd be available, that anyone who wants to come in and get them?
yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
So, I mean, we have no way to distribute them
No, I
to
don't-
you, but if you're
I
willing
don't
to
mind
come,
coming and
if
getting
you're
them,
willing to come
and
to town
bosses
hall,
come.
say
What
that
we would probably do is print them and leave them at the land use office, because we don't really have a reception window upstairs anymore
right,
until PD moves. So once, then we'll have a reception window back. But we can print a set and leave them at the land use office downstairs for you.
That would be
for anybody
fabulous.
to pick
Yeah,
up.
I'm just in a bind for the last year.
okay.
So, and it's Janet, Walter, and Sue that we've been printing for, so.
So we'll have 3 copies available, one for Walter, one for Janet, one for Susan, and if you want to come to town hall on Friday before a Tuesday meeting, they will be there available. If you don't pick them up, they'll be sitting here on the table when you show up on Tuesday for the meeting.
Right,
Does that
before I
sound-
come into the meeting, I'll check and see.
I just
what
want
copies
to
are out.
recap, make it clear, everyone has the expectations. If that doesn't work, speak up now, otherwise that's what we'll do moving forward. Okay.
No, that's,
I just want to make sure you're satisfied and we all understand what everyone's supposed to do.
it's so difficult to live without a printer.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. Walter, any comments? Buzz? Les?
My only comment would be that I think the select board appreciates having Christina at these meetings as well, because there's a lot of times that one of us may not know the answers, but Christina is able to pull them up quickly instead of saying, okay, well, we'll have to get back to you on that.
I would comment that, again, I have a lot less history than Janet, but for the time that I was on the board when Nick was still the town administrator, Nick was at these meetings, because
Well, that was a different era. That's when,
I'm not.
I'll shut my mouth.
I've
But
only,
that-
right, I've only
No,
been
he
on
was
the board.
here, he
But
was here, but
I'm used to
No,
having the
he
town
wasn't.
administrator here at the meeting to answer questions and clarify things and to handle the sections that don't really have a department head. You
Yeah.
tend to own those when we get to those sections.
Well, and even when the board makes a decision and the finance officer is hired, the finance officer won't probably be at these meetings. It'll just be myself at these meetings. That's the direction that the board, and we've talked about in the past, so.
Now, see, Bob used to be at all our meetings.
Bob didn't go at
No,
all.
No, prior to you being.
No, it was before me. He didn't go at all last
He
year.
went to all the meetings that I went to.
Yeah.
And the finance person can answer questions that Nick couldn't answer, you know?
It doesn't seem to be the case now, though.
No.
I would
And
say
the
that Bob,
direction-
I remember Bob coming to the meetings when we talked about debt, principal and interest and the
Yes,
TAN
yes,
loan, but other
yeah.
than that, he didn't tend to come to meetings.
And the direction we're getting from the Department of Revenue and NHMA is that the town administrator is responsible for your budget. So your finance officer helps create it, but your town administrator is the one responsible for creating the budget.
I thought that was more under a town manager. It's a town administrator.
The select board's the one who, they approve it, but your town administrator is the one who actually is responsible for it, so.
I just couldn't see you sitting here, because I know you're doing a lot, and you taking the minutes and then Shannon
Oh, no.
taking the minutes. I just,
No,
Yeah.
I'm working on the select board email for Thursday night.
Oh.
And I'm taking my notes for what I have to change. But,
Do we have a new finance officer in the running anywhere?
no, so.
Okay, so, and I don't have any comments as a board member. Staff comments? I think you just made your comments. Do you have anything else, Christina,
Oh,
that you
no,
want to share with us?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay,
I'll vote
you vote for?
to go home.
I'm gonna say the next
Yeah.
item is
Yeah.
adjournment, so I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to adjourn. Walter will second. All in favor? We are adjourned. Have a good night, everybody. Stay warm.